That red
Make
light
sure you
means
announce
we're
who
being
we
taped.
are.
Yes.
See.
So,
No more cussing.
this is the
Yeah.
East Hampton Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership. Today is Tuesday, October 11th, and it is 6:47 p.m. Okay, does everybody have an agenda?
Yes.
Sort of. I did not make copies. I usually do, and
Save the trees.
It's okay.
I saved the trees. So the first thing on the agenda is to talk about our CPA request approval. Oh, before I do that, just do you want me to back up and just talk about what we do? What's our
A little bit,
purpose?
yeah.
So the Housing Partnership is a advisory committee. We don't have any real authority. We kind of serve as an advisory committee to the mayor, to the zoning board, to the planning board on issues of affordable housing. Our mission is to preserve and promote affordable housing in East Hampton, and to also provide resources and around fair housing. So if people have fair housing questions, landlord-tenant disputes, they can certainly come to us to talk about them, and we would likely refer them out to the various state agencies, nonprofits in the area that provide sort of more comprehensive resources regarding that. So in the past, we've done things like support affordable housing projects around the town, like Parsons Village. We have provided, we updated our housing, I'm in trouble, housing production plan in 2014, which is basically the city's plan to increase affordable housing activities. That was approved by the state, so we're sort of working through the housing production plan now to kind of pick out what are the things we want to work on. And there were 23 priority items listed in the housing production plan, so you know,
That'll keep us busy.
that'll keep us busy for a long time. The East Hampton media segment that you helped us with on affordable housing was one of our priority items. So working on things like that. And so recently we had a request before the CPA committee for some affordable housing activities that was approved.
Yay.
So Kathy, I didn't go to the city council meeting. Do you want to tell us how it went?
Well, Jessica came too, so.
We were like
shared.
We were a little team. Little partners. We had so
What
much
did you
fun.
just drink before you? Jeez, I should have some. Yes, Jessica spoke about the housing rehab program. We asked for funds for, to rehab 3 or 4 existing buildings for people that are income eligible, homes, single family. And the second program was a down payment assistance program, and that would include funds for 6 homeowners who need help with down payment assistance, and also education and counseling around the home buying process. And we have somebody lined up to administer the housing rehab program, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. But the other program, we're going to issue a request for proposals from nonprofits who might want to run the program. And the total was $192,500 and no cents. So, sorry.
And that's total, including both, or is that just for the?
Both plus a 10% contingency in case
Overages somewhere.
yeah,
And so how much are we RFPing?
75.
Right.
75, right? Yeah.
I think so.
It's
I can go to the file, but
I don't have it with me. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, because I think it was 100, well.
It was 100 for
the
PVPC.
housing rehab.
Yeah.
And then, the remainder 75, and then plus the contingency, so that would come out to the number that.
192.5.
Yes.
Anything else I should mention?
Well, how did it go at city council?
Oh.
Fine.
Fine, I don't think there was any, they were all very supportive. I think a lot of it kind of got hashed out at the committee level to some extent, and the CPA level.
Right.
And so I think, but there wasn't a ton of, they were more interested in the how the program was gonna be administered and make sure that there was city staff that was gonna be overseeing it, and so I committed that the planning department would oversee the entire process and the subcontractors, and so they felt confident and comfortable with that. And so that was really their biggest concern, I
Right.
feel like, was just making sure that the money wasn't going to these consultants and they were never gonna be heard from again, and what the reporting was gonna be, and they're just protecting the money and the taxpayers' money, really, so.
Dan just, really shepherded the process, both at the finance committee and the city council. So, he really knew the programs, and he knew which questions to ask to bring out certain points, like the concept of flipping, you know,
Why we had a
Not flip.
DPL, basically, what the
Okay.
whole reason of having a deferred payment loan, and, just explaining that it's so that somebody doesn't buy, get housing rehab money, or get first-time home buyer money, and then just flip the house and sell it, and that they're committed to paying that money back, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Well, there was
Missed
no,
you.
there was no votes, JP
Oh, yeah.
withdrew because he's a real estate agent, so he decided not to vote against it, or vote at all. He abstained from the vote because he's a real estate agent. What else?
Okay. It's better than voting against it.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Why would that matter?
he felt it did.
Okay.
It could.
Just
Like a
for
first-time
future
home buyer
questions, he
just
wanted to
comes
make
as a
sure
real
that
estate
Maybe.
agent?
nobody could say that there was a conflict of interest or anything on his
Yeah,
part.
that's what I was thinking, okay.
So now what do we do?
So now it's all on my shoulders. So, as you probably know, I'm down a staff person right now. I
Yeah.
lost the
What
arts
happened?
coordinator.
Yeah, I saw that.
The arts coordinator.
Oh.
So,
That's
So-
Burns Place?
the woman who replaced Burns, correct. So I'm a little swamped right now, trying to keep my head above
Jesus.
water. So it's on my list of things to do, and I will get to it. So I think the first thing I need to do is I'm gonna try to pull out any old RFPs that we might have done under CDBG program for this, and just take a look at that as a model and see if there's at least a starting point from there.
For the rehab or for the,
For the
First time.
RFP for the first time home buyer.
cause we have
So-
two, the two that we've written previously, neither of them were for first time home buyer, but
No, so I need to
look at, yeah.
I need to
okay.
look at a first-time homebuyer, and if I can't find one here in the city, I'll probably put out a call on the Mass
Okay.
Planners listserv and see if anybody else has any sample RFPs for first-time homebuyer programs.
Okay.
So that's on me, and then the HR program is on me as well. I need to reach out to PVPC, I need to get a contract in place, I need to just start getting the administrative side moving. Just figure out timing with Jim Mazik and when they would do these units and how it would work with their existing. And as you know, the CDBG program there's a lot of changes that could be happening, so, you know,
Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything recently, no, but, who the hell knows what's gonna happen, and who the hell knows what's gonna happen with housing rehab, quite frankly. So anyway, so there's a lot of things that are kind of up in the air in terms of that, but this is guaranteed, this is 4 units they're gonna be doing, so it's all on me to start getting the ball rolling from the administrative side,
Okay.
so, but it would just be patient.
Well, if you need any help or you want, if you find a template and you want us to
Yes,
start it
that would be fantastic.
and
Right.
then give it to you to
Sure.
make look pretty.
Let me see if I can find a sample first, so we're not starting from the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, I've already said I'd be happy to do that.
That would be great. So JA to find model.
I wonder what the town of Belchertown used cause HAP is administering a down payment assistance program with CPA funds for the town of Belchertown.
Okay, I'll just reach out to Doug then, he's the town planner.
Yeah,
So, okay,
I'm
I'll
assuming
email them.
they did something similar. Like relatively recently.
okay, through CPA, right?
Yeah.
Alright, I'll contact Doug.
Can I ask a dumb question?
No such thing.
Okay. What does CPA stand for?
Community Preservation Act.
Okay.
What's Doug's last name?
Doug Albertson?
All right, okay.
CPA can be used for affordable housing activities, historic preservation, open space,
Green space.
Recreation.
so we try to go after money for housing. And we had it was like smooth sailing this time, which was great.
Yeah, there was only one sort of stick in the mud, but
But we
even
still,
that wasn't bad. That was a
still
stick.
passed.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, thank you, Jessica.
Mhm.
All right, next on the agenda is this East Hampton Media, which I admittedly, a month went by awfully fast. So I did email Kathy Lynch, I CC'd you,
Uh-huh. And
saying,
I never heard anything from
I know,
her. Okay.
saying Jim will help you. She responded back just to me, asking for the exact minutes to which to insert the slides that I go with your presentation, which I haven't done yet. And then was like, we need to meet to talk about this, and I was like, okay, and then 2 weeks went by, and I was like, oh, I didn't get back to you. But the general thing is that 38 minutes is fine, it doesn't have to run in a 30-minute time
Oh, okay.
frame, so we don't actually have to edit anything,
Yeah.
which was more of our concern about trying to figure out what 8 minutes we were gonna have to shave off, because it was, basically
stuff.
everything was good. There really wasn't anything that really was glaringly needed to be omitted. I do think that it would be interesting to work with her on a few snippets of things if we wanted to do little sound bites or little PSAs or
Shareable.
little things that we could.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh my
I
goodness!
thought I'd join you.
I thought you were gonna make a mess.
Being
No,
remote.
it's just advertising.
Oh, yes, right.
I don't know.
Would be
Or
okay,
thank
thank
you.
Good to know.
Yeah, it's good to see
You
you.
know Jackie, right?
Hi, Alita.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, and you?
Excellent.
So, so that still hasn't happened. But assuming that in the next 2 weeks, I can get her the slide minutes of what exact second they need to be inserted over Jessica's presentation.
Are you talking about the housing production one?
Yes,
That Jane did.
yes, so there were
Okay.
2 places in your presentation that you specifically referenced.
You mean Jane's presentation?
No, when you were being interviewed by Mike.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it was a long time ago. There were 2 parts of your discussion
Yes.
that you talked about two of the slides from Jane's presentation that we were
Didn't even
going to
know.
insert into the thing, which one of them was the difference between affordable housing and housing that is affordable.
Right.
And the other one, I think, had to do, with, I think, building constraints in the city of East Hampton or
Okey-dokey.
something. There was one other one. So Kathy needs the exact moment that those need to show up on screen,
I see.
which I just
Yeah,
need
I
to
know, no, not this one.
watch.
Let her know at minute, blah, blah, blah.
At minute,
I see.
3 minutes and 32 seconds.
Yeah.
While
Okay.
Jessica's talking about housing that is affordable or, affordable housing.
Okay.
So that needs to happen, and then we just need to figure out, if we're done with it, which I think we're pretty much are done with it, if we don't have to cut out 8 minutes, then what are we gonna do with it? I mean, she's gonna run it, she's gonna put it up.
It's already live on the website. So you understand that she put the link up for you to see it, but anybody can go in that Vimo.
Really? Because I didn't
Yes.
think that the Vimo thing was what everybody could
My
go on.
coworker found it before
Oh.
I did. So that's why I sent out this email saying, it's actually public. It's not running on the ECAT channel, but anybody who goes on
Oh.
the Vimo website can find
If
it.
you're
If you
bored and you're
Right, if
browsing.
you're looking for city meetings to catch up on.
Well, I think there's
Okay.
lots of places we can post it, you know,
Mhm.
we can use social media to put it out
Oh, yeah.
there and, right, you just need a strategy.
Right. So that's what we don't have, really. I mean, we have a loose strategy
Mm-hmm.
of that. Well, we can just post it places and send it
Well, I
out.
can do it on the Facebook, on the planning department Facebook page. That's easy enough.
Okay.
So that's, I can ask Pat Ruff to
Put it on the
to
news
share it from the
page.
news page.
Ooh.
Yeah,
So I'll ask
that's a
Pat to
good
do that.
idea.
That's easy. He'll just share it straight from the
Well,
planning
and I think
department.
we could use, do a press release with it as well.
You could.
You could
That
put it on
makes
the East
sense.
Hampton Facebook page and see how much controversy it incites.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like her.
Page.
Cause in trouble all the
That's
town.
why I invited Fran.
The town page.
I didn't even know we had a town page.
Oh my god, every
Well,
single
it's
post.
It's like a
It's
controversy.
not a
Every single
town
post.
sanctioned page,
No.
it's just, it's a, and I think it's a group.
It
It's
is
called
a
the East
group.
Hampton group page.
Yeah, it's a group page. It has 2,500 members and about 4 people who always say something negative.
Maybe they're watching.
Hi.
Well, in some ways it's not bad, cause I'd actually
No.
be curious to hear what people's
Yeah.
reaction is.
You just need to be prepared for the fact that people will respond without watching the video.
That's right.
So they will respond simply on whatever
Is in their
preconceived
head.
notions are in their
Mhm.
head without ever watching a second of that video.
Yeah, true story.
So,
Sounds like the presidential campaign.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, well, that could be interesting.
And that's okay.
Yeah, but once we have the snippets, like we can create a little.
Right, but I would like to have like a few like shorter segments, cause I think that 38 minutes, you know, how long did it take all of us to watch the whole 38 minutes? It took me more than one sitting, so like, you know, not everybody's gonna sit there.
like 12.
Yeah.
38.
So if we have some shorter things that we can have available
Mhm.
to us, I think that that would be helpful
Mhm.
also. So I will still loop you in with that, with Kathy and I, because I need the help.
Because I volunteered.
Because you volunteered, right. And yeah, so then once I have the slides are inserted and it's like done for now, then I'll let you know, Jessica, and you can stick it on the planning department
whatever.
page. And then, yeah, so then I think if we're realistic about where we are in the time of the year, it's already October, so I think if we wanna think about like, in 2017, what are some of the outreach strategies or like things that we wanna do? We obviously, you know, I think it would be great if our elected officials watched it, if the
Mhm.
zoning board watched it, if the planning board watched it, you know, we
You
could.
could also
CPA.
do during public speak at city council, you could go and say, this is to let you know
Mhm.
that this is out there, we encourage you to watch it, we think it's really informative,
Yeah,
blah,
that's a
blah,
great
blah.
idea.
And then that way you're also on camera at city council, so you're
Mhm.
also, whoever watches council meetings will also hear about it too.
Can
But
there-
that's a good way of like face-to-face with council.
That's a good idea.
Can there be a link to it on the easthampton.org page somewhere?
I could put it on the housing partnership page, the
Oh, that's a good
webpage,
idea.
but there's other stuff there already.
Because then it's static in a way, right? Because
Right.
on Facebook, it's just gonna,
Sure.
Yeah.
it'll
Yep.
go away.
So I can certainly do that,
Always
that's easy
there.
enough to do, is to post it on the, and speaking of the housing partnership webpage, I think I posed a question to you a long
Yes,
time
a
ago
long
about
time
fair
ago.
housing,
Mhm.
and what type of information, I don't know, Brandon, you can pull it up now, the wireless code is there,
I
so,
know. What is it, like our page?
yeah, easthampton.org, and then find housing partnership, but there's I have a couple of things, the housing production plan is there,
Okay.
I feel like there's something else there too, I can't remember what it is, but what should be there for fair housing, you know, cause I feel like there should be something, I just don't know what, whether it's just directing people to fair housing resources, or is there some other education
Mhm.
material, I don't know what the answer is,
Okay.
so that's a question, you don't need to answer it tonight, but think about it, maybe at the next meeting, if you can
Yeah.
get back to me, and then Jamie and I together can, put stuff up on the page.
Yes.
Do we have anything out there that kind of informs the public of where to go to seek help with housing?
Well, that's what this is, what I'm asking is.
I've had a lot of
Oh, no,
experience
go ahead.
with these kind of dilemmas with landlords and whatevers. And I used to go to the Springfield,
Not the one in Holyoke?
no, I just got pointed towards Springfield, but they were very helpful. And there's a booklet out that I've seen before about landlord and tenants' rights and
Yes,
responsibilities.
that is a good
That
one.
is
Okay.
priceless, and I haven't met a person yet that's seen it except for you guys. And I was thinking of nothing else, it'd be great. to-
What is it?
Mhm.
What's it called? Landlord?
Landlord and tenants' rights and
Isn't
responsibilities.
that on mass housing?
It might be put out by like the, either the AG's office or the Consumer Affairs Office, or
It's a state document.
it's a
though.
state
I might be able-
document.
I might be able to find it, yeah, it's,
I'm sure I can Google search.
because I was tangling
That's a
with
great
that,
idea to put resources.
Yeah, I think that should be like in every supermarket at the front door and everywhere, because
Well, that's,
there is so much stuff that landlords are pulling on people.
Mhm.
It's just not legal. People don't know. That's kind of my little
Yeah,
soapbox.
that's
But I think it'd be good to have just a statement of what fair housing means.
Well, there's,
Is that on
there,
there?
yeah, I
Haven't
mean,
looked at
pull it up so you can look at it and you can see what's there. So there's a, just, I think it's the mission statement of the committee,
okay.
or there's some description in there, and there's the members, and then,
Oh, yeah, except Betty's still there,
so we'll
and
update.
Bob Servini Jr.
Well, he's still technically on the committee,
Is he?
yes.
Did you ever talk to him?
I actually saw him here not too long ago, and
Did Connie resign? Because she's not on there. Connie Denham.
Oh, yeah, she's not on there.
That was.
this might be, this is old, so it needs to
Some
get
friends
updated.
on there.
Well, remember, I was supposed to join like a really long time ago, I didn't.
Not that long ago.
Oh, maybe. It was this year, like
Yeah.
5 months ago. Is this the one?
That looks like it, the one I saw was red, but that looks like the updated version of it.
It's been 2 years since I've seen it.
Can you email me that link?
Yeah, that is a really good document.
It is, it's extremely informative.
But yes, we should all look at it before, our November meeting and think about other things that we might want Jessica
On the website.
to put up there in our state.
In the meantime, I'll ask, IT and city clerk's office to update the members list.
So, these are all good ideas. These are all like easy things that we can do in the next couple months on this East Hampton media thing, and then.
How many, you decide we.
No.
No hesitation there.
I'm surprised, yeah.
No good ideas here.
No, we don't really have a budget.
Not even really, there's no budget.
No, I know you're not kidding.
We managed to do a lot with free.
Just air.
Well,
Yeah.
with just, the planning department staff time, really.
Just have to be more creative.
And then, I don't know, I mean, this might be something to think about for 2017, but would we wanna like have a public screening or some type of discussion or?
Good idea.
That is a good idea.
I like
You
that.
know, like, it's a little
It's
bit
town
of,
hall.
yeah, like a town hall debate. But like, it would be an opportunity to see it, but then also talk about it or ask questions about it,
About what? What
Do you-
about the East Hampton media segment that
Oh, okay.
we participated in.
Do you think it might make sense, instead of having it be an open thing that people come to, that we offer to go to places like the senior center and the East Hampton Community Center, where there's already something happening,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, we could do that too.
That way we won't have to bake cookies for everybody and stuff like that.
Well, and also because
They
I
make
think
us cookies.
sometimes when you just invite people to come, they don't come. But if you go to
Right.
something that's already,
Right.
this is
Yep.
what I learned working at UMass.
I think
If
that's
you
a good
invite
idea.
students to something, they won't come, but if you go to their class where they have to be there,
Yeah.
then they see it.
Good idea.
And you bring pizza, yeah. So we can think about other groups that maybe,
Yeah. That's a good idea. Okay.
when we have a city council viewing, forced viewing. I'm kidding.
Well, if
Well, I
if we
think-
get the snippets.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we have snippets, and I think if we go to city council and like you said, during public speak, talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
then it might encourage some of the counselors to go watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do that before I would publicly post it all over Facebook and stuff. I would
Yeah,
give them
I
the
think that's a
courtesy
great
of
idea, cause then
telling
people
them,
ask them.
right, telling them ahead of time, and then maybe a week later, putting it out
Okay.
publicly.
If somebody wants to watch ECAT, how do you do that? What channel is it? Does anybody know?
192, 3, and 4, I think. In that
Yeah.
range.
And you can watch it online too.
I don't stumble across it.
I used to stumble across it when the number was lower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because
no,
if you
it's
have like
harder.
Yeah.
I get
charter,
it,
they will-
193,
guessing, yeah.
I get it at 193.
183. Yeah, I'm never down in those numbers. I'm always up in the 700s.
All right, any other ideas to do right now on this, besides get it, like, done? Which it mostly is at this point.
Just the editing and the snippetizing.
It's just the, yes, the snippetizing, which might take a little longer, I would think, but getting the slides in there.
You have the presentation, right?
Yeah, and I had already given her, I have the slides, and I gave her the
Oh,
slides.
okay. It's
But
just a
she
matter
just
of
needs
knowing
me-
what minute.
She needs me to be more precise about where the
Got it.
slides go. And then last month, we talked about, maybe putting in adding some additional photos, cause there's only photos of Parsons and Cottage Square. And not photos of any other projects. So, Treehouse is on the Beacon website, you can just, so I could also try to do that too, just so it gives a little bit more variety of the kinds of things that there's. It's not just our two more recent.
Make us look more massive, yeah.
Right.
Now that we are at 7.2%.
Right!
Wow. That's great.
And our goal is,
10.
10.
Everybody's goal is 10.
So getting to 10 is
Hard.
but 7.2,
That's like a whole percentage.
That's fantastic.
yeah,
I was surprised when you were talking to Mike during the presentation that like a peer of East Hampton could be like Ludlow, and their percentage is way lower.
Yes, yeah,
That doesn't surprise me.
no, doesn't surprise me either. But yeah, I often think of Ludlow as kind of a good comparable to some extent, because it's a mill town, it's
Mhm.
about the same size geographically, it's a little bit bigger, but it's, population size and the whole mill,
Mm-hmm.
I think it has some comparables there. But it's, abutting Springfield, so it is really a bedroom community to
Mhm.
Springfield.
Yep.
It's where people move to feel safe. So,
But yeah, 7.2.
yeah,
And so that's 7.2 is our percent on the subsidized housing inventory, which is a list that is kept by the state that defines what kinds of projects get to be counted on that list. So the state has a certain threshold of what they consider to be affordable housing, not just housing that is affordable. And so as a community, we add things to the list and we can update it to make sure that it's accurate. So are some things coming off soon?
well, it's interesting, because I looked at it and they didn't take out any of the housing rehab projects, the old ones that had expired already, so they still have those on there. So whether all they did was just add the stuff that I sent in and didn't look at the rest of it, which I'm kind of surprised, but there is a whole bunch of housing rehab that will be expiring over time.
The
We don't
one
have-
unit.
The 1 unit stuff.
We don't have any big projects that are expiring now, right?
Mm-mm.
No, but
By
Small is
housing
also-
rehab, is this housing with people living in it that need help rehabbing?
Mhm.
Charter does on TV or something. They have some kind of program where they go
I've seen
in.
commercials for that.
Yeah.
Similar.
What's that program called?
Housing rehab?
And so will the 4 units that are happening out of our CPA, will those help preserve those to be affordable, or are they
I'm sorry,
new?
I missed the
The
beginning.
CPA rehabs?
So the state sort of changed not too long ago. I'd have to go find my packet of papers on this, but you used to be able to count housing rehab on the inventory pretty easily. Now you have to have a deed writer attached to it. So unless somebody is willing to put a deed writer on their house, it's not gonna get counted on the inventory, which is why we don't count housing rehab anymore.
And the deed writer would have to be like
15.
15 or
Mhm.
30, yeah.
15.
Okay, so anything else on the ECAT stuff for now? Alright. Membership recruitment. Jim fulfilled his duty by asking Alita if she was interested in learning more about the housing partnership. Jim
Or
gets
Alina's gonna be on every committee. 'cause
I know, I was
Jim.
thinking that the other day. Wait a minute, I'm trying to retire.
Yeah, that's boring.
Yeah. I was gonna say, you retire so that you can take on fun things.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a big failure as your chair this month, I hardly did anything. I did meet with Fran though, we had
That's right.
breakfast, so
We did.
that was like an hour.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I feel way
But I
more
recruited
informed.
Fran, so,
So
and
you
Connie.
get credit.
Alright, so you get credit too. But so we do need to talk a little bit more, about, is there anyone else,
Mm-hmm.
that we think should be on the board, on the committee? I don't really wanna get caught in the whole, we need a person from this industry or a person from that industry, cause I just think it's too hard to fulfill that,
Mm.
expectation. And we've had that expectation for quite some time and really have had a hard time fulfilling it.
What's our goal as far as how many people we want?
Well, we don't have a set number,
Okay.
which works to our benefit actually, because we don't feel pressure that we don't have enough members. And since we don't really have necessarily any authority, we don't really need to, we do sometimes vote on things, but we don't have the whole sort of quorum kind of obligation that if we were the planning board or something, we would need a certain number of members. So, I don't know, that's my spiel about membership.
Well, so we don't wanna get stuck in we need somebody from this industry, but are there specific skills that are needed on the committee that we're missing? Or perspectives, or?
It would be nice to have somebody from like the construction industry,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was just
private
thinking that.
sector.
Which we used to, when we had Melissa Boyle.
Oh, right. Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was a good perspective actually.
Yep, I always think, folks who work, in the banking industry who
Right.
write mortgages are good to have. We used to have Pat Clark for years.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would try to recruit Marion Kent. She's, it would be good to have someone with an attorney sort of skills,
Mhm.
actually.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were looking, those are
Those are,
my
yeah,
wish
They
lists.
didn't have to be East Hampton residents.
And, right.
right.
What was the
And
second one, construction?
banking,
Banking.
and, be interested in affordable housing, fair housing,
Or wanting to learn more about it. I think that's where, if you're thinking about, Jess knows a lot of the private developer types.
I know somebody in construction, I have no clue whether they'd be interested or not. Her name is Lynn Badgett, and she's a contractor, and she was deeply involved with the Habitat project,
Mhm.
at least the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't, I have no idea how busy she is, or,
does she still live in East Hampton?
yeah, I just saw her a couple of days ago.
My husband knows her.
Yeah, she's a nice lady, she's a good lady. I can ask her, see if she's interested.
What you can do is say no, right?
That's right.
Well, first I have to figure out, if she says, well, what do they do, I have to figure out what the answer is,
Well, why don't you come to a meeting and find out?
Well, I thought I'd bring you with me, we
Oh.
can ask her together.
Okay.
For a while, we were trying to recruit folks from the church, the diocese, because
Yes.
they have land and
Yeah,
buildings that we
land
were
and
hoping
buildings,
that they
yeah.
would decide to use for affordable housing,
Oh.
but we were never successful with that, unfortunately.
What's gonna happen with that church that closed, anybody know?
Good church.
Which one? Yeah.
They're using all of the churches for church business.
Oh, they are? I thought they closed one.
They closed
they-
too,
They closed them as
churches.
As
Churches.
churches.
Well, they're using it for other things, I see, okay.
That's their story and they're sticking to it.
Yeah.
Storage and whatnot.
So we can't
So
turn
when
it
other
into
churches
something.
close down and they have all of the
Churchy things.
churchy things, they get stored in
Churches.
in churches.
Church accessories.
Accessory sounds better than churchy things. All right, well, why don't we,
Yeah, I'm gonna,
think on those three
let's
categories.
think on those three categories.
I had,
Construction, banking, and legal? Is that what you
Yeah.
said?
Yeah, tried to talk to Ann Parizeau about joining a while back,
Oh, yeah.
and she was taking some time off from community commitments, I think, so I'll try her again. She's a lawyer, she's done all of our closings, we've bought our house and refinanced it.
Alright,
And I also will ask my next door neighbor, who's a vice president at Florence Savings Bank, if there's anyone there
Yeah.
that he would recommend, cause I don't think he would do it. But. Speaking of which, do you remember Andy and Andy Tilby and,
Vicky.
Vicky? I
Mhm.
saw them and their baby.
Yes, he's very cute.
He is very cute, not that long ago.
I see them sometimes. Alright, well, let's think about those 3 categories for next time. And I think, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
And Connie.
6, if we had 7. I mean, if we had even one more person, I feel like we're in good, pretty good shape.
Mhm. I think we're in good shape now, actually,
Mm-hmm.
We are in
to
good
be
shape.
honest.
Yeah. Well, when it was just Kathy, Jim, and I, we were feeling a little.
So sad.
It was a little sad. But this is a big.
There's so much done.
Well,
I was like, maybe I shouldn't even go back, maybe they don't need me.
Kathy really, yes, carried the CPA request from start to
She did.
finish.
She was awesome.
Because she's a
Yes.
rock star.
Yes.
She did.
Yes.
Um,
I just have a question, because when I was thinking about, one of my questions was, okay, what kind of skills, so this is really helpful, but, I wasn't quite sure, about what Connie's, what her interests or skills were, and whether there's any way we can engage her more, or,
Tonight she's doing a forum at UMass on the question 2, no and
Okay.
2, with students.
yeah,
So her skill set is sort of activism and advocacy and learning about policy and working to change it.
okay.
But she's been really straight out with work the past couple months, so. But we'll get her to come back.
Are you back or only temporarily?
I think I'm back. I can
Oh,
manage to come
okay.
back. Yeah, I'm not done with that big paper I'm writing.
I didn't ask.
She learned her lesson.
Because you yelled at me last time. I'm just kidding.
And then I apologize for.
I know, I'm just teasing.
I know you are.
All right, any other items that we didn't
I have something.
discuss?
Oh, I'm
Go
sorry,
No,
I just thought of something, you had said you might also contact Joanne?
I was gonna contact Joanne to see if, yes, if Valley CDC had any East Hampton residents in their
That'd be
mix,
helpful.
Well, that's a
mix
good idea.
that might be interested. So yes, I will still do that. That was on my
Do you
list.
want me to do that?
Would you like to do that?
I'd be happy.
Thank you, that would be lovely, Catherine.
I might talk to Kevin Mulligan, cause I think he would be interested maybe, if he's not too busy. Are you thinking?
Give it a
He's
try, why
He's a
not?
contractor.
It's true. He's not like a big contractor, he's
No.
more of like a porch builder.
I know, he built my back stairs, did a fabulous job.
You might build some porches for me too.
There you go.
Well,
Well, if there's somebody else
but
that
I'm
comes to
thinking,
mind.
yeah, I'm trying to rack my brain, I mean, I know most of the local builders,
Mhm.
and so I know who may be helpful and who might not be helpful, so
Mhm.
the next time one of them passes through with some questions, I can try to
That's a good idea.
pose it to them and see if they'd be willing to show up once a month.
Okay.
I have some other items, just more informational. So the state passed an economic development bill in the end of July. And one of the items in this very large bill was to make some amendments to the chapter 40-hour zoning. And so what they are now looking at is developing what's called a starter home district, because I think this may be more of a Boston issue than it is a Western Mass issue, but the lack of affordable starter homes in the state, and that most of the construction is really high-end luxury condos and nobody's building single-family houses anymore. And so they're creating another category under 40R, just to refresh or to let people know about 40R in general. So The way that it works is it's an optional zoning district. We actually have one here in East Hampton. There's the zone. That's the map. And so a developer can come in and they can, if they have a parcel that falls within these areas, they can choose to do choose to do a smart growth zoning project. And Cottage Square is the only project that has been permitted through this program in the city at this point. And what it is basically by right permitting, but there are design standards that a developer would need to meet. So it's not a special permit process, there's not as much risk involved, but they are required to build 20% of those units as affordable units. So that's the piece that the city gets, and the city also gets money on top of it as well. So in the past, it's really been for multifamily housing, higher density. So now with this new starter home district, they're looking at land areas greater than 3 acres, minimum density of 4 units per acre. The houses can't be larger than 1,850 square feet, and 50% of the units must have at least 3 bedrooms, and 20% of them must be affordable for incomes at or below 100% of area median income. So this is in the economic development bill. DHCD is now trying to figure out the regs, the policies, and all the other pieces that go along with it. But this is something that will be in place as of January 1st. And I'm trying to keep up with it. There's groups that are having conversations and phone calls about the impacts and how this is gonna all play out. My thought is that it's potential we could look at this map, and the parcels that are in green, the bigger parcels right next to Brickyard Brook, which are all owned by Bernie Gall, would make more sense to be a starter home district than they would be as they're currently written under the 40R for East Hampton. At this point, the way that we drafted it at the time was to have kind of a similar situation to where you live, Alita, where there's basically a lot line, but there's a shared wall. And that was a way for us to sort of get around the density requirements at the time and still allow a density that made sense for that area in an environmentally sensitive area, surrounded in a residential neighborhood. I think this may end up making more sense for that location than how it's currently drafted. So I'm still trying to figure this out, but I wanted to just brief you and let you know that this bill passed. There's changes, there's a lot of stuff happening, you may hear stuff about it. We have the zoning already in place, it might be wise for us to rethink it a little bit, so that's it.
Is there a certain amount on the requirements, a certain percentage has to be this and that? Does any of it have to be accessible?
The regs don't say that per se, in terms of accessibility. I feel like there is language in there about in the East Hampton regarding accessibility. And the weird thing about this zoning is that zoning, when it's typically drafted and adopted, is at the local level. It goes to the city council process in East Hampton. In this particular case, it has to get reviewed and approved at the state level. It's a standalone zoning document. It has to have everything that you would talk about, parking, environmental stuff. It's a standalone document. You can take it out of the zoning and it will still work. So, so it has a higher level of review, and it has to be reviewed and approved at the state level, and they can say, this doesn't work, you can't put this in here locally, and they have a lot more control of it than we would at just a local level. So
It's project specific? That has to go to the state?
not the projects, but
Okay,
the zoning
sorry.
goes to the
In
state.
that spot.
Because there's money tied to this. So the way that the money flows is they look at the base zoning, and whatever density you're increasing under that base zoning, there's money tied to every single one of those units. And every time there's a building permit pulled for a project that's been approved, there's money tied to that. So,
The reason I was asking is because, we have affordable housing, we have subsidized, we have elderly, and blah, blah, blah. We have all kinds of housing. We have a whole bunch of senior people out there raising grandchildren or whatever that need accessibility and low income or whatever, and there's nothing out there, which is how I wound up doing the Habitat thing. And I've been looking for something like 7 years, and I've run into many people in the same situation. They qualify for everything, but they can't because they need the accessibility or they need this or that, So I was wondering if we could sneak a little something in there somewhere eventually.
I thought that all new things had to be designed to universal design standards.
I think so,
that
I
are
mean, I think it's a
accessible.
building code, it has to meet the building codes.
Mhm.
What?
New
Universal
construction,
design.
new construction is supposed to all be the universal design, which is supposedly more accessible.
Most of them are 2 stories, you know, if they're like homes type thing.
Yeah, is that true
I've
for
seen it.
rental, or I would think
I don't
rental,
know,
not.
we would have to get clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's a good question, for sure.
Yeah,
The money that comes to the city, does it have to go into certain,
We put it in a pot, because what we were told by the state is that if you don't get a project that is permitted through 40R under a certain period of time, they can take their money back. And so the city sat on the money that they received for many years until Cottage Square was permitted and went through. And then we used a portion of that money to fund the boardwalk, because we ran short. So you can use the money for what you need to use it for, so.
So this has already been zoned 40R, the green lots?
Yes,
But not been developed yet?
correct. And I don't know if the landowner who owns that would ever develop it under 40R, because he's never built an affordable unit.
Anything, ever.
What
Well, I
about
mean,
the-
I mean, you could, it's sort of the split in the definition. He would argue that his units are affordable because they're at a low price point.
But then,
Housing that's
They're-
affordable versus.
Exactly, but they're not deed restricted.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
What about the little bricks?
That's been developed into into a series of duplexes, so that is,
Oh, okay, I know what that is.
that was
Which-
the old farm.
Could have, seems
Could've.
like the density that they're talking about
Yes.
here.
Yes.
So this could be, it could be a good strategy for our smaller lots,
Mhm.
that we have more of those that.
But it's gotta be at least 3 acres according to
Yeah,
this,
how many,
so-
that's what I was thinking, is what do you even.
So I think the
how
only
many
things that would
acres
work
is
are
for
the,
Gulf's property?
Gulf's properties along Brickyard Brook, those 4 pieces.
Or if someone took down the Ferry Street buildings.
But I don't think starter homes would make sense there,
No,
in the big
probably
picture. But starter homes would make sense in those green lots, for
Mhm.
sure.
Absolutely, that's what that neighborhood
So-
kind of is.
So anyway, I'm watching this and trying to
Mhm.
keep up to date on it, but I just wanted to let you know that there are changes. There are changes afoot.
Interesting, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else on your list?
No.
The only thing that I can think of that was on Kathy's list was that our next meeting is on election night.
Ooh.
So no.
As long as you're not voting on anything, you don't have any permits, then you can still meet. By the state law. I'm not saying you have to.
We can't.
You might all be glued to your televisions, figuring out what's happening, but.
Well, that was my question is, do we want to meet on election night, or would we like to move the meeting?
I'm in.
Yes, please move it.
I mean, what time does the polls close? I'm gonna be polling voters until then, but
Well, 7 to 8.
I'm probably gonna be in Keene.
but you can early vote here.
You're,
But
she's
I'm-
working the
But I'm gonna be in
polls.
Keene.
Oh, you're working.
I'm working the doors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I won't be.
Let's
but-
resketch.
I think
Alright.
we should reschedule, because this, yeah.
So do we want to try to do that now?
You can, but it.
It all depends on the meeting and the room, right?
It means that, you also have Veterans Day, and you also have Thanksgiving,
Veterans Day's on a Friday,
okay.
When is Veterans Day, the 11th?
November 11th.
But the planning board meets on the,
We meet on the, but
first.
we don't meet down here, we meet upstairs.
I know, but you two will be up, be
We're
there.
not, you won't be.
On the first and the third,
First and third Tuesdays of every month.
and then the week after that is Thanksgiving, so that's not good.
But we're in a Tuesday night meeting. You don't wanna do the 22nd?
Well, I don't care, but if, are other people, I mean, I'm around.
I don't know.
Can we just do it like the Tuesday after, the 15th?
Planning board is the
That's
first,
planning board meeting.
then the 15th. I mean, are people around on the 22nd?
I'm here.
Yeah, I'll
Oh,
be
no,
here.
I don't know. I might be driving to Ohio.
I'll be basting my turkey.
The
2 days
22nd?
early.
2 days early? Wow.
It's gonna be some juicy turkey.
I'm gonna be washing my hair, yeah.
Yeah.
We can Skype you in.
Yeah.
Well, do you want me to ask Barbara if the room's available on the 22nd?
I can check on the computer, but yeah, you can ask.
Yeah, I haven't made my plans yet, so I could leave the next day or something, I don't know.
You could leave right after the meeting.
I don't particularly want to, I shouldn't say this, we're being paid. I don't want to go to Ohio, but
Or we could meet on Monday, the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
that I could do for sure.
I think Conservation Commission.
All right, well, why don't we adjourn the meeting, since that's really the only thing else we need to talk
All right.
about. We don't need to
Right.
torture our viewers with our meeting times.
Okay.
All right, it is,
All of them.
what time is it? It is 7:38 and our meeting is
Yep.
closed.